tempe chinle yarngoda belge drolor zambe zeparchen pande lame shabla solwade Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardan Siddhi Hum Hum Om A Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardan Shri Bhadra Varsa Manyas Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dhagi Jitsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Ningne Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Tede Malupa Geme Lunge Drupra Chingelo Soni Sodan Diktun Shape Tse Dunge Namge Yinsu Lekshune Lapchen Tsoni Yonso Tsopadan Chira Nitin Chanwara Jingel Chancho Pargi Ninsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen de la Drubra Chingelo Dagi Lona Chola Chokpadan Chumin Samjurngemba Shiwad Chodan Tumbe Dedem Malupa Beme Lunge Drubra Chingel Dorna tingne tsirava tamchedan techi pardune kav tamche rese kyamne lama kele me tukche chingi dala sikso so gongyab dreve nyamta dachala chitsun lame tuche kudan sungi nawa dralme tu nyamsu nyongwe kesan topra shua kewa kuntu yanda lama da drame cheki pela longche chin sadan lamge yende rabzo Dorje change kopa nyurtob shoya pakyuke kudan dagelu pakyuke sundan dagenga pakyuke tukdan dageyi tenyerme chiktu Chingelo Makyuke Kudan Dagelu Makyuke Sundan Dagenga Makyuke Tukdan Dageyi Chiktu Chingelo Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni 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 Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni chedan tsoki chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi chushe gibe sonam ki drola pinchire sange druparish Sangye chedan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu dagi chushe gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupara sho sangye chedan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi chushe gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupara sho.
In the in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge. Sorry.
Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo yal haye ke da dane jenke rubda mi ke nam dan roba kunge tanam che tsam tam je ke de da ge chete. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Molto spesso
Very often,
quando
when
sperimentiamo qualcosa
when we experience something,
chiediamo
we
perché
ask ourselves why.
viviamo un momento di qualcosa di piacevole,
We live something pleasurable, or rather something difficult.
ci ammaliamo,
We get sick.
vinciamo la lotteria, non so se
We win the lottery,
magari in qualche modo sì, metaforicamente parlando.
or even metaphorically
Però quando
speaking.
succede
But
qualcosa sia di bello che di
but
brutto,
when something happens, positive or negative, we often ask
da un
ourselves
lato
why.
cerchiamo la ragione,
And we look for the reason
proviamo a
somehow.
cercarla,
And when we look
però
for it,
non troviamo
actually,
qualcosa,
we don't
un'altra
find it. We can find something around there,
bisogna di fare una
but
distinzione
we should
fondamentale.
make a fundamental difference
È la distinzione che esiste fra causa
between
e
cause
condizione.
and condition.
Facciamo un esempio.
For
A un
example,
punto vediamo germogliare una pianta.
at a certain point, we see a plant germinate.
La causa di
The
quel
cause
germoglio
of that germination, of that sprout, what is it?
è il seme.
It's the seed.
Ma il seme da solo riesce a far germogliare?
But can a seed sprout
Terra.
by itself? No, it needs soil, it needs water, it needs sunshine.
Queste sono le
Those are the
condizioni che
conditions
permettono
that allow
all'energia
for that
forza
energy, that
istante per
energy that's latent, that's waiting to manifest itself. And there's a difference between cause and conditions. Causes come from the past,
che c'è già prima.
what was already come before, and the condition is something that is in the present moment, there at the same time, that allows for that force to manifest.
Tutta la luce del
I
sole,
can put all the sunshine, give the best soil. I can water every day, but if there's no seed,
nulla.
nothing's gonna come up.
Quando noi prendiamo per esempio
For
una
example, we take sickness
quello che accade è che
as an
molto
example. What
spesso,
happens often,
sto parlando di quando uno si rompe il braccio,
I'm not talking about when you break an arm, I'm talking about different kinds of sicknesses that exist where
l'aver preso freddo nel quel momento,
or maybe you got a cold in that moment, or you went to that specific place. So those are conditions
sia si manifesta
that allow for that sickness to manifest, but the causes of that sickness they come from much prior.
cause
So the causes, we could say that there are two different kinds. Some um, are right on time. Let's say something happens and there's something that is just waiting to be able to interact and to come out. In other times, there's small things that happen, and we repeat them with similar actions, and that for example, for sickness, the more often I eat in a certain way, um, then then I'm creating some difficulties for my bodies. And the one day that that then it can all come out. It's not that one day that I ate badly that brought out the sickness. It's the adding up of all of those actions. But but once the sickness has come out, the cause isn't there anymore, but the conditions still are. And so when we ask why, we we look at the conditions as if they were the cause. When we ask why, is our tendency is to think that the seed is sprouting because there's the sunshine and there's water, and somehow yes. But Buddha said that we have two types of ignorance: the not seeing. Sanskrit ignorance is avidya. You can understand. Well, a is a negation and vid is to see. So avidya is to not see. And there's a deeper ignorance where we don't see a reality in a coherent way. We don't see permanent phenomena as permanent. We're not able to see subjective reality as being subjective. This is a type of ignorance too. The other type of ignorance is we're not able to see. At the moment of the result, we're not able to see what the causes were. And as we're creating the causes, we're not able to understand what the ramifications, what the results will be. We're not able to connect coherently the past, the present, and the future. All right? Are you following? What does this bring us? This often it brings us an attitude of victimization, of self-victimization. Let's let's take this example. What would it be like if we had a credit card without limits? But one important characteristic is that the bills that come in, these bills arrive randomly. Maybe after one day, maybe after 4 years, we don't know when we'll have to pay our debit. Let's imagine this card is also pays us our salary. So our salary, but we also use it to pay for goods that we purchase. So we don't know when we'll have a credit or when we'll have some kind of debt. It arrives randomly. But you trust that bank, you know that they'll never trick you. But maybe this month you have to pay €5. And then another month you have to pay $1,000,000. Then maybe one month you don't earn anything, and then the next, imagine that what you earn and what you have to pay is completely random. There's no coherence to it month by month, and there's not even the description. Has it ever happened to receive like a bill and you don't remember having done that? For me, this really touched me. What happened. It was here in Albagnano one day. I needed to renew my car insurance. Okay. I looked at it, it cost a lot more than the previous year, and I asked myself why. And I called and they said because you had an accident. I said, an accident? I didn't have an accident. My first thought was, I often loan my car to others. I thought, oh, someone had an accident and they didn't tell me. I mean, that's really not. I remember talking to the lady of the insurance. No, but there's, but, but there. She says, well, I have all the documentation. Is there my signature? Yes, there's your signature. And I thought, oh, they even falsified my signature. How they didn't even tell me, and then they even falsified my signature. And I said, can you send it to me? Can you scan and send me a scanned copy? She sends it to me, and I see that it really is my signature. And I think, this is so strange. And I start reading, and then I remember I was here in Albagnano about 11 o'clock at night. I was in the Gompa until late, and the next day I had to leave very early for a trip, and my car was parked right here, but here in the middle. It was dark. There was a little bit of a fog. I went and I went in reverse, and I didn't realize there was a car parked next to me, and so I hit the car, and, all along the side, and so of course I wasn't going to just leave without saying anything, so I sent a message to, I took the module, I signed it, and then I contacted someone from reception. I said, "You'll help me out with this, and to call the insurance the next day." I mean, so when this bill came, I didn't have any problem paying, a higher rate, but but and I was sure that the insurance wasn't tricking me, but I still had this feeling of injustice why before I understood that I was the one who had the accident. So just imagine if all bills that they arrived without any kind of description. One here, one there. Oh, I bought something 20 years ago and I have to pay for it now. We have some artisans around here that are like this. They never bill you, never bill you. Then 6 years later, they send you a bill. So what happens is, in our everyday life, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that we can experience, that is not the result of our own actions. Everything we experience, pleasurable or not, nothing comes from nothing. And we can't experience anything for which we have not created its causes. And what others do, those are conditions. Those are not the causes. When I'm with someone who speaks to me in a certain way, who does something, what the other is doing towards me, around me, that person, what he's doing or she's doing is a cause, but for me it's a condition that interacts with the choices, with the experiences, with the actions that I have done in the past, and together we have the present experience. So it's really important. Let's imagine that we are going to pay these bills. We don't know exactly when it will be, but to be have a little bit of serenity, and without getting into great feelings of victimization. First of all, we need to trust the bank. Whoever is managing my accounts, I need to trust them. Because if I have full trust in he who, or the entity that is sending me the bill, and I know that what I have to pay is right. That's one thing. Otherwise, if I still have to pay, then I go into this whole inner dialogue where I victimize myself and it's not fair and what is it and was it really me? Okay? So one of the first things is to really trust the system. And traditionally, this is called having faith, having faith in the law of karma. It's a term. I'm a little bit uncertain. I have some doubts if it's right to use actually the term karma, because there's many Buddhist terms where there isn't an appropriate translation. Sometimes there are things that don't have a translation, but we translate them, like merit. I mean, the translation merit, we use it, but it doesn't uphold the idea. Or renunciation. I mean, we choose a translation, but it's not able to transmit that original Sanskrit concept. That I mean, we take a word in translate it into English, into Italian, whatever it is, and we try to make it uphold ideas or concepts that are new to us. But karma means action. I mean, we have the word action with the same meaning. But when we use the word karma, we have maybe this idea of some like mystic force. Oh, it's karma. It's karma is following me, is persecuting me. I've got this karma, that person's karma, as if it were some kind of entity that lives somewhere that sometimes does, nice things to us, sometimes treats us badly. Look what karma did to me. Karma is not an entity. It's not destiny. That's the classic, something beautiful happens. Oh, look at my good karma. And instead, when something bad happens, it's your fault. Karma is not destiny. Karma is not a kind of entity that can punish us or reward us. Karma is action. Action means interaction. And there is no interaction that does not bring a transformation, a change. Karma means all of our thoughts. Those are actions that interact and bring transformation. All of our word, all our speech, our physical actions. These are our interactions that interact. There are 3 types of karma: body, speech, and mind. These are the interactions that we have, how we act physically, how we act verbally, and how we act mentally. What happens is, whenever there's an action, that action never, ever ends in itself. I don't know if that's clear. To understand it a little bit better, what happens is, on one side, the action ends. It concludes. That action concludes. But there's a force that interacts and continues. A very clear example for me is, if I take this stick and I throw it in the air, the action of throwing the sticks, once I do this movement and I open up my hand, but that stick keeps flying. There's a kind of inertia of movement that keeps pushing that stick to go through the air. That force, that inertia, at a certain point can come into contact. It will come into contact with another force. Here on planet Earth, there's the atmosphere and gravity that make it so that that force um, weakens and then it falls. If we were in space, what would happen? If we were in space, there's no force of opposition, so that's a stick would just keep going and going and going until it found an obstacle to run into. So let's imagine that every action that we do generates a kind of inertia. It doesn't end there. This kind of inertia that's generated at a certain point can come into contact with something else. Okay, I throw the stick and somebody walks by and it hits him in the head. At that point, the two forces meet. The cause of that of that the cause of getting of of hitting the person in the head is throwing the stick, and the condition was the person walking by at that moment. So the action ends once I conclude the action. The karma has ended, the action is over, but every action that is done creates a kind of force that continues, this inertia of movement that can come into contact until it comes into contact with something else. Another example for me is when we, in this present moment, we experience things, and our way of experiencing it, often they're the results of things that we experienced as children in our childhood. We made choices, we lived things, and those choices push us years later to experience something today. So what happens is everything that we do, every word that we say, every thought that we have, they interact with others. They keep working inside of us. And sooner or later, it manifests in an action as something verbalized, as a thought, a way of perceiving reality. Actually, even the things that we see, the way we perceive reality is fruit of our thoughts. Let me explain myself better. There's a system. I heard this really well explained system. It's called this anterior reticular system. It's a part of our brain that has this function of discerning like what kind of information out there do I need. Since we receive an enormous amount of information, but among all of that data, what is relevant to me? And we give importance to those that are attracted, those that are connected to our desires, to our interests, and we're able to give importance to one thing or another. For example, maybe you want to buy a car, or you just bought a car, and at a certain point you see that everybody has that same car, and before they didn't. Why does that happen? Because we're paying attention, we're giving importance to that object, and we're able to see it more around us. And there are many systems. So those thoughts that we have, those emotions that we feel, the thoughts that we have, the desires that we have, those fears, etc., they determine a part of what we see and how we see it. They manifest, and when they manifest in this way, in Tibetan it's called dakte. Dakte. It's the result of the environment. So there three different ways that karma can manifest, and one is this is from environment. So the world around me is a result of my own actions. This environment around me, dakte. And during the times of Buddha, since the times of Buddha, it's always been said that the law of cause and effect, the law of karma, is one of the most difficult things in ever. But what's fundamental is being able to recognize and accept, to allow it to be part of our thinking, of our understanding, that nothing ends in itself. Nothing comes from itself. If I'm living something, it's because the causes and conditions have come together to make it so, and I'm no one's victim. And if I do something, my thoughts, my actions, my speech, it doesn't end there. They will give results. They will interact and give results, and they can come in different ways. For example, we have a greater tendency for habit. For if the more I act in a certain way, then the greater that tendency to act in that certain way will be. So if I lie again and again, then it becomes spontaneous. It's quite logical. The more I do something, the easier it becomes. The more spontaneous, but more of a habit it becomes. The more I react in a certain way, the more I will react in that certain way. And then there are also, of course, to consider the consequences of acting in that way. But the main point is not getting to some people have already told me, oh, the law of karma is horrible. Not only do I suffer so much, but it's also my fault. It was better it was easier when I was the victim. And I say I say no. Thank goodness there's the law of karma, because if the state of my being comes randomly, how can I be sure of what's going to come tomorrow? It's useless that I work hard to go in a certain direction. That when then the result of what I do is completely random. If what I experience, it was not caused by me, but I'm a victim of others, that's worse. Maybe the same. I mean, in the sense that would mean that I depend on others. Others are deciding for me. And if someone is choosing on my behalf, let's say they weren't so kind, how can I trust tomorrow? And I look around. If someone needs to choose what is going to happen for others, either I'm really ignorant, or I don't want to use heavy language, but because actions come from the mind. It's not what someone does physically. If someone is going to determine, if there's someone behind all of the negativity, the anger and resentment and violence in the world, that would not be something positive. That wouldn't be good. So we are living the result of the actions that we ourselves have done. And this means that, okay, if I change my way of acting and I start understanding this like understanding a healthy mechanism, if I'm able to if I'm able to see the 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 actions that bring positive results and seeing what brings negative results and making the choice, a healthy choice, then that means I really can. So if it's random, I'm in a bad way. If instead others are deciding for me, then that's also horrible. But if it depends on me, that means that yes, I need to work hard. I need to put effort into understanding what is good for me, what is bad for me. Cultivate one, abandon the other, change one's own habits, which is not easy. But in this way, I gradually, it's a very slow process because as I'm creating good habits and avoiding the negative ones, I'm still experiencing the negative results of those bad habits of my past. I mean, those sticks, I threw many sticks, and sometimes they, hit me in the head. Then I say, okay, well, I stopped throwing sticks, but the results are coming from the ones you threw in the past. I see people have said, I smoked, I smoked for 50 years, and now that I quit smoking, now my sickness has come. Thank goodness you stopped. But that doesn't mean that the inertia of smoking for 50 years, it wasn't continuing and, brought its own result. So, so we need to have faith in the system. Our credits or our bills. So without complaining, without victimizing ourselves. And we need to see, okay, how can I get credit and have less debt? And there's an interesting aspect because in philosophical Buddhist texts, the definition of an action that brings a pleasurable result or a negative result. So punya e papam, punya or sonam in Tibetan means these actions that bring pleasurable results. And dikpa in Tibetan, papam in Sanskrit, those are these actions that bring results of suffering, translated often as negative actions and merits. I mean, these are this is terminology for which we don't have a concept, but but the definition is very correct, but it leaves so something positive actions, or this is sonam. These are all actions that when they are computed, they bring out pleasurable results. And then also the negative actions, they bring out unpleasant results. So, okay, that's correct, but what do? I have to wait for the result to understand if it's a positive action or not. Then I thought, so Buddha described the actions. Generally, these are negative actions. Depends on the motivation. Depends on many different things. But there are actions that are negative. We could talk about the 10 negative actions, like not stealing, not killing, not lying, not using violent speech, or using divisive speech. I mean, there are different actions of body, speech, and mind. So three of the body, 4 of speech, and 3 of the mind. But going beyond that, I wanted to go beyond that. And what I found is that one of the best thermometers, ways of being able to judge an action is positive or negative, it's our own body. Let me explain. It's said very clearly that the the motivation is a driving force of any action. When we do something, we have some kind of behavior that is good, coherent. Often the body reacts with a sense of well-being when we act with love, a compassion, with gratitude, with humility, tolerance. Our body naturally enters into a state where we feel good. Instead, when we react with anger, hatred, resentment, aggressiveness or miserliness, arrogance, we physically generate a feeling of tension. And this doesn't work 100% of the time, but it helps us as a gauge. So our body itself is already telling us what is good for us and what is not. Our motivation, when we do something when there's a feeling of love and affection, the oxytocin in our body increases, and our senses heighten. The food tastes better. We say that the food was made with love. It's not just a saying, it's true. And there's studies that back this up. They show that when we're about to eat something and we have this feeling of affection and love, the way the food was prepared, or the feeling that we have for those people, that increases our level of oxytocin, and that heightens our sense of taste. That's why the grandma's soup is grandma's soup. I mean, it's so special, and there's no comparison. So when we say made with love, I mean, it really makes a difference. It's an important point for me that I like to share with you today is one of the keys is living our life with coherence and with a great sense of self-responsibility, which doesn't mean that the interactions with others is not important and what others do isn't important either. It is. But my body is the result of how I've how I've lived my body up till now. And what I live is the result of all the choices, all the thoughts, all the words spoken up to now. And the beauty in all of this is that this means that from here on out, the actions that I do, they will determine my future. I'm sure that there's someone here saying, well, what happens with those extreme situations where you this massive or strong suffering, and they didn't do anything to deserve that violence or that suffering. In the view according to Buddha, this life that we live is like waking up in the morning after have an amnesia, not remembering yesterday. But even if I don't remember what happened yesterday, does that mean that I am completely disconnected from what I did in the past? Maybe I still have a stomach ache from what I ate the day before. If someone, or if you're, maybe you have a pain in your back because you took a blow, you don't remember, or you drank too much and you don't remember. So you will relive the results independently of remembering or understanding that connection with what you did. So we need to have faith in that system, the bank that is sending us the bills. It's a natural process. It's not an entity. It's we're, to where our actions interact and bring results, and that's that works even on a collective level. We live social situations that don't come from nothing. That choice that was made interacts with another, and etc., etc., etc. And today it manifests in this way. I mean, if we study history and you see things from uh, from a wider angle, you're able to understand these cycles. If you look at the history of Brazil, for example, in my ignorance, I saw things that seemed very clear. I mean, we're living situations that were um, the results of choices made by a few, but also shared and upheld by a whole society. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but the greater the entity, this process of cause and effect, it, the the time is longer. So when we're talking about a country, the actions the actions done today, we will see the clear results in 50 years' time. It takes time. It's not immediate, and that's why it's often difficult to make choices because we want immediate results. When actually today we do things, and these are then become um, become the conditions, and then the actual results we won't see for a long period of time. And sometimes it's also hard to have long-term projects. They make choices thinking far into the future, but it's very important to do so. And also for ourselves, understand that if I live in a coherent way, if little by little, as I go forward, I try to avoid what I know is detrimental, and I try to have a coherent life with and connect with what I know is beneficial. That's a huge step forward. Because if I want to be well, I need to make the choices and do the things that make me well. And so we know anger, hatred, violence, and generally speaking, um, uh, physical, verbal, and mental violence, jealousy. I mean, we can't change from one day to the next, but the greater our awareness is that these feelings are harmful, then the greater will be my effort into avoiding them. So one term we use often is karma yoga. Karma is the same thing as action. It's the same word. And we think that karma yoga has nothing to do with karma. And instead it has everything to do with karma. Because karma is action. Yoga is something done in the most excellent way, an action. So in this way, karma yoga, we could say, is an action done in an excellent way. I mean, there are many yogas, the yoga of eating, the yoga of sleeping. So like the yoga of eating would be eating in the most excellent way. And yoga of the action is this karma yoga is acting in the most excellent way. And that would be an action that is not done for the I and the my. Generally speaking, most of the actions that we do are directed to supporting the I and the my, what I want, what I need, and it's totally, I don't want to say totally, but it's mostly directed towards my needs and my that's my objectives. And karma yoga can be an action, whatever it is, cooking or cleaning, and the objective is not for myself, but for something bigger than myself, that something that I am part of. That's one aspect of it. Another important aspect of it is that this action done in an excellent way is having the awareness that this action will transform me. So the way I perform the action will 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 transform me. It's the way that I train in patience, and the way that I train in increasing my love and my our ordinary way of doing things. We think about the specific action. I take a glass in my hand, I drink the water, I clean the glass, I clean the floor, whatever it is. Normally we think about the action itself, but doing the action in an excellent way. The crucial point is not the action itself, but it's why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. So if I simply, I mean, just drinking water, I'm offering, I'm connecting to the holy, what's sacred for me. I have um, this awareness as I'm drinking it. I feel grateful. I have a moment of awareness. I feel that moment. I hold the weight of the glass in my hand, and I'm I'm familiarizing myself with the present moment. And then if I can connect with something that is beyond the I and the my, this attitude of then I'm cultivating an attitude of altruism, and I'm going against my self-centeredness. And this has a much greater inertia, karmic force, than the same action thinking only about myself. And so how we do the action really um, determines the positive strength of the action. So karma yoga is not just working for the center. You can do it anywhere. The- the- let's- Karma yoga is an action. First of all, it needs to go beyond the I and the my. So if I'm home for myself, I can do something beyond myself. But if I'm somewhere that is for the common good, and I'm doing something for that good, in this case, the center, it's much easier than to work in this direction. And then there's another subject. In our ordinary way of acting, we base ourselves on on doing and receiving, on getting, and an action done in an excellent way. I do something because I want the benefit of this action, for everyone and not just for myself. Just a few points about karma yoga. So in this process of karma yoga, it's a process of growth, of accumulation. Okay, we use this term merits. So we do actions that transcend the I and the my, that go towards something that's bigger than me, that bring benefits beyond beyond me. Because someone comes here to the center and they receive benefit, that person could receive that benefit, first of all, because the center exists, the doors open, and there's the whole structure that allows for that person um, to receive something. So that karma yogi is sharing, um, is sharing in the positive results of his actions. And this really, when we work together like this, it really creates an important karmic force. I remember a friend of mine in the monastery of Sera. He studied a lot. He was about to become a geshe, Losan Nietzsche, and he was named to become the administrator of the monastery. And he wasn't at all happy, but there's there's a very strange democratic system in the monastery that it works like this. When when um, when the job titles change, secretary or whatever it is, there's a vote. But there are no candidates. One doesn't candidate oneself. One just chooses who one chooses who one thinks will be the best, and nobody wants to do that. And so you you so for example, Pao was chosen as the monk to take care of the gompa. Once you're named, I mean, either you're very, very sick, you get sick, or you leave the monastery, which means that then you can never come back. I mean, these are the only ways of getting out of fulfilling the, the job. And so my friend, really, the time of his life when he really wanted to sit and meditate, and he had to do 4 years as administrator of the monastery. And he thought, oh no, I just finished my studies, and he was a little bit down, let's say, morally. And he spoke to one of his masters, Geshe Yeshe Wanchuk, also one of my masters, who was at the time in Tibet. And then he sent him a letter he showed to me. And he said, at this time in your life, so no matter no matter how much you sit to meditate, you won't be able to do much. On the other hand, if you really dedicate yourself, to the monastery, the positive karma that you can generate is much greater than what you could generate yourself in your own practice. So take advantage of this opportunity. Don't do too many practices. Do the three principal aspects of the path, but with the right motivation, it will help you. It will help you generate the right karmic force, so that in the future, the fruit of your dharma practice will be stronger. So generating positive energy to sustain states, positive states. So karma yoga is a process of awareness where we generate this positive energy. It's a process of like inner challenge where one is faced with one's own shadows, and but it's a very, very special opportunity. It goes beyond the periods of formal karma yoga. So if someone comes and says, "Oh, I'm coming to this center to do karma yoga, so I don't have to pay for anything," and one thinks of it as a job and as an exchange, I mean, so you can be part of the karma yoga program without actually doing karma yoga. And you can also not be part of the karma yoga, but also be doing really karma yoga, have this awareness and be here to be helpful. doesn't mean being part of program. It's our way of acting inside, where where we need to just more and more to generate awareness. I saying all this because I'd like to thank someone who I'd like to thank Lucho here in front of me, who was who've been doing karma yoga for many, many years. I'd like to just say 2 words about him. I feel quite proud about our center, about this. As I said many times, the objective of this place is to help people who come into contact with our center so they can follow their inner process of growth that goes beyond religion. We're a Buddhist center. We follow Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist practices, yes. But being here, does one need to be Buddhist? No. You, um, um, and so Lucho is Christian, and he's always been Christian, and he is today. And talking to him the other day, I think this is beautiful. He said, being here, this allowed me to get into contact with the roots of my own faith. And this reminds me of something. It seems a little bit like a joke, but it's like we were at the Italian Buddhist Union not a long time ago, and there was Maria Rosa. She very naively said, because at my center I have a few volunteers. One, he's been there for 20 years, and he just became Muslim. So you did a great job after 20 years of working in a Buddhist center. He became Muslim, and everybody started laughing. But it's beautiful because he's Egyptian, and after 20 years of being in a Buddhist center, he really connected to spirituality and his own roots, where he was able to connect to his own spiritual path. So it's the objective is reached. I mean, it's not that we all need to, all see things in the same way, do the same things, and follow the same religion. So I like to remind everyone that we're here for our own spiritual growth, and this is something that, I mean, Lucho has always had this awareness. I see it like this anyway. And what we've said to each other, I'd like to thank him for what he's done for the center in these years. He's leaving for personal things, but here we're in a family. He doesn't seem against this. He's getting married. And he's going to start this new adventure in Rome. And so we thank him for all these years that he's been here, these years that he's offered to us, all the delicious food that he's cooked for us, his presence, and we thank him. So please, can you come here for... I always thought I'd be on the throne, but even just next to it, that's fine too. I've been here for, these have been 5 important years. and I will not be able to forget them. I came here.
Come ho detto a Lama Michel dall'inizio, la mia vita era
Right from the beginning, my life was it was destroyed,
prendo questa occasione
and I
per
thought
cominciare.
either I take this occasion really to start again, or I don't.
Ho incontrato delle persone che mi hanno
And I met people that
e poi ho
really opened themselves up to me, and I tried
usare il tempo che avevo
to
perché
use the time that I had.
non avevo la possibilità di
I
esternare,
I didn't have
avevo
a possibility. I didn't have other choices. I had lost everything, myself and more. At
47 anni
at 47 years old, it was really sad.
e allora niente, sono andato
And
avanti,
so I went
ho
forward.
sbagliato, ho
I
continuato a sbagliare,
I kept making mistakes.
mi sono proprio laureato
I even I got a degree
fino a che alla
in
fine ho avuto un callo sulla testa talmente forte che ho
in
pensato di battere la testa nel muro.
I,
Eh,
let's say I got a degree in making mistakes until I just hit my head so hard against the wall that I was given this opportunity really to make a change. Thank you.
Grazie.
Quindi concludiamo per oggi.
So today we'll conclude, and today this today the topic of action, of karma, is an example. When we act with awareness, when we give the right direction, the results come. Rinpoche once said, the causes if the causes are good, the results can only be good. So we need to trust this and live in a coherent way, keep our values, and act in a coherent way, acting with compassion, with gratitude, with love, and the results will only be would be positive. I I just wanted to say I can't stay very long because I have an appointment. But if you want to say a quick hello, if you need to, I'm here.
Rowe Munsel Takto Ne Gyurchi Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamge Yenten Rabzo Ne Dorje Change Kopa Nyurtob Sho Nimo Dele Tsendele Nime Kunyan Dele Kshin Nintsen Takto Dele Kpe Kuncho Sumki Chingi Lop Kuncho Sumki Ngodrubutsol Kuncho Sumki Trashisho.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to obtain all realizations and sprinkle the path of our life with various signs of auspiciousness.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and spring all the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Teshidele.
Have a good day, everyone.